All right, diagnosing sick plants. So I know this is probably most pertinent to those in the nursery business, because you get a lot of customers coming in, they've got sick plants, and they want to know what's wrong with it, and they might even want you to replace that plant. So you want to comfort them, right? No, everything's fine, it's still alive. So I'm just going to go over some basic resources that can help you tackle those difficult situations when a customer or client comes to you with a sick plant, or maybe you're the landscape maintenance person and you're trying to figure out why a plant is dying. Oh, also this picture here in the front, there's a cute little video online on that website of these gals diagnosing sick plants, and it's kind of fun to watch. Got a second? All right. So when we think about all the diseases and things that can happen and go wrong with plants, and we look at our resources, here's one book, just one book, lists over 800 problems, pests, and diseases. So what are the odds that one of those 800 problems that can go wrong with plants is what's happening to your sick plant that you're looking at? Okay, so don't get stressed out. It's okay. Let's just start by narrowing down our search. So if we're looking at a sick plant, something's going wrong, it doesn't look like we want it to, let's first just take a look at the plant. What is this plant? That is going to give you a great first step, especially with regard to pests and diseases. They tend to favor certain plants. So if we know that we're looking at a spruce, then we can go in and look under spruce in our book, our resource book, and look at what are the common problems that are associated with spruce. And that's going to narrow it down from 800 to about 10. Okay, so that's a good first step. So never overlook that first step. Number two, consider the abiotic problems. So what's abiotic? What does that mean? Right, not caused by an organism, not caused by a living organism, okay? So environmental things that can go wrong. Then number three, which I already mentioned, find the reported pests of that plant. And number four, know where to get help. So I'm going to talk a lot about that, okay? So keep calm and carry on. And take a close look at the sample that you're looking at. I've dealt with a lot of people, sick plants, you know, and people get very emotional about their plants, and, you know, they want to know what's wrong and they want to know what they can do about it. And it can be stressful as, you know, a horticulture person, because you want to help them and you want to tell them how to fix it, but you know, you may not know how. So just stay calm. I've found that most times if you can, the person or client is just looking for someone to listen to them and hear their plea. So just start by starting a conversation with the person, okay? So what is the name of the plant? That should be number one. When did the problem start? And how much of the plants are affected? I bolded those because those tend to be very big ones. So when did the problem start? So did it start 2 years ago, or did it just barely start? Yes. And how much of the plant is affected? So I bolded this one because oftentimes I'm talking to someone and they bring in this sick leaf, right, and it's got something on it, something going on. And I say, how much of the plant is affected? And they say, well, you know, just one branch of this whole tree is affected. Okay, so that's a red flag right there. Oh, well, maybe there's something going wrong with that branch, but are we going to get all stressed out and start spraying chemical all over the tree if it's just one branch or just a small part of the tree? So we want to consider that. How long ago was it planted? So is it a young or an old tree or plant? How large is it? Where is it located? That's a very important question as well, especially with something like winter injury, which I'm sure we've all seen. So if you ask someone, where is this specimen planted, and it's some kind of evergreen, and it's planted on the southwest side of someone's home, you know, there you've got, it might be winter injury, right? Have you recently sprayed a herbicide in the area? That's an important one also not to leave out. That comes up more often than not, actually, when I'm talking with people. They've recently sprayed herbicide in the area, and it can cause all kinds of different things. I'll show you some pictures. And then how often do you water and fertilize? So folks that have something going wrong in their yards, they don't like to hear that they're doing something wrong. They think they're managing everything perfectly, right? Well, it's okay to just kind of go through some basic maintenance guidelines with people. I've found that they never, never think that that's annoying or anything. Just because it could be underwatering, overwatering, or some kind of fertilizer issue. So it's okay to say I don't know as well. As a new horticulture extension person, I haven't seen every problem and disorder out there, so I have to say I don't know a lot. And we take over 1,000 gardening questions every year over the phone and through email. So thousands of people calling with their problems, and don't be afraid to say I don't know. You can just then go to your resources, make a note, write down those answers to the questions you were asking from the previous slide, and get back with them. And they'll never mind that. So in the field, if you're out looking at something and a sick plant, it's nice to roll with some plastic baggies, take a sample, and then bring it back to your information source or your computer. You can also send that sample into USU Extension, and we can help you figure out what's going on. If you're in person or in the store, in a nursery, so you can also then check your resources for common issues for that plant. Consult your coworkers. A lot of the same problems tend to come in again and again and again, and if you haven't seen it, someone else that you work with might have seen it. And if you still are stumped and it seems like that problem is serious and the person is very concerned about it, then refer them to USU Extension. So you can refer them to someone like me in the county extension office, and I can return a phone call or an email, or also just send a sample straight to the lab. Okay, so some of those physiological or abiotic things that can go wrong. Winter injury. You can see a evergreen tree here, and so it's sort of dry over the whole tree, all the tips of the needles. So when we look at abiotic or physiological things that can happen with plants, you tend to see it spread over the whole plant or multiple plants in the area. When we look at biotic or insects or diseases, you'll see patches. So you can notice the patterns and sort of separate out, is this a pest and disease, or is this maybe something physiological? Too much or too little water looks like the same thing, drying leaves. And soil compaction can also cause a lot of problems. Herbicide injury can look different depending on the plant. So it can look like yellowing of the leaves. So it could look like a nutrient deficiency, or it can look like mottling leaves or curling leaves, or even leaves that are just small. When they come out, they're kind of miniature or just distorted. So watch out for that. Soil compaction, I just list some symptoms here. So what are the symptoms of soil compaction? Chlorotic leaves, small size, insect and disease infestation, and dying branches. So sometimes we overlook the whole system. So it comes back to that, where is this plant located? Is it in the park strip, a narrow park strip where it doesn't have a lot of soil volume? So some plants, if they're planted just in an environment that's not suitable for them to grow, they're never going to grow that well. So just consider those things. And also, as we're looking at sick plants, don't assume it's an insect or disease. If you don't see the sign of that insect or disease. So we're probably looking at the symptoms, the dieback, the wilting, yellowing leaves, tattered leaves. That could be physiological or it could. So sucking insects come in a lot, and I put them together on this slide. So aphids and spider mites and scale, you'll see sticky stuff on the leaves look kind of gross, you've got all these bugs all over it. They're just very common, and right at the top, healthy plants can tolerate some feeding. So that goes with a lot of different diseases and insects of plants. So they're out there. It's the natural environment. So just consider that sometimes the threshold, even though we see an insect on a plant, it doesn't mean we need to spray that off. So the insects are part of the natural environment. So before you do spray a bunch of chemical, consider that some the plant can tolerate some feeding. There's also, non-chemical things that you can do, like spray a strong jet of water to dislodge those insects. Also, insecticidal soaps work very well with soft-bodied insects, and they don't leave a chemical residue that will affect insects that are beneficial in the landscape and garden that feed on these pests. So borers is another one. When I worked at the nursery, I was asked to recommend a borer insecticide a lot. And I just wanted to point out that there are a lot of different types of borers, and they're active at different times. And so if you do have someone that sees holes in the trunk of their tree and you are sure they've got a borer, make sure you're reading the label of the chemical that you're recommending to make sure that that specific species is listed there. And then also look at the USU fact sheet on that borer. We've got fact sheets online for all of the different species, and we're going to point out when to apply that insecticide to actually target it. So I read the label recently for carbaryl insecticide that's listed for borers. It doesn't really explain when to apply it. So that's when you can go to USU Extension, and we're going to help you figure out and recommend, when to target the stages that are going to be susceptible to the chemical. Okay. Home pests are another one that comes in. Just wanted to point out, there's different types of these wasps and yellow jackets, and you want to have the right trap for the right insect. So paper wasps are the ones that we see a lot. They're actually attracted to fruit, and so if it's a yellow jacket trap, it might have a bait that tastes like meat or smells like meat, excuse me. You're probably not going to taste it. But so we want to make the right trap for the right insect. And hornets, those big baskets that you see up in the trees, those are actually considered a beneficial because they prey upon other pests. So there's a lot of information out there, and you don't have to hold it all in your head. So what I just wanted to help you with is to know there's resources out there. Don't be afraid to say, I don't know. Let me help you find that information. There's a lot of handbooks. We've got a Pest Advisory email list online that helps people find information about spray timing. We've got a lot of fact sheets online. So when I say fact sheet, I just mean it's a short publication that goes through A to Z about a certain insect problem or disease. We've got a diagnostic lab on campus where we can help you figure out, diagnose diseases and identify insects, and county extension. So the pest advisory I mentioned, you yourself, or you can also recommend to clients, probably the best example of when I would use this is with codling moth. And I know when I was working in the nursery, the steady stream as fruit season comes on and people wondering when to spray for the codling moth and all these things. And there's many more. But if you come on here to the utahpest.usu.edu site, click on Integrated Pest Management, and you'll see at the bottom the IPM Pest Advisories and how to subscribe. So you just put in your email, and that's going to come out. The specialists on campus are going to be trapping for codling moth and calculating the weather data and figuring it all out. They're just going to email you, it's time to start spraying for codling moth, and here's the products that are available. Here's the garden-friendly, options and all of that. So it's a great email list to be on. It's really not spam or anything. It only comes out when it really matters. So Factsheets, if you come on to the extension site, you can use the Google search bar on the website, which generally works, to pull up different pests and fact sheets related to that. Also, if you have a client who wants more information on a basic gardening subject like composting, they want information on composting, you can say, come onto the garden.usu.edu site, and we've got lots of basic gardening information that you can. One trick I've learned with diagnosing sick plants and problems is using Google to type in the words, the symptoms that you're seeing, plus that plant that you've identified, and then plus the word extension. And what that does is bring up a lot of sites that have the .edu designation at the very end of the website address. So here I've typed in brown spots on maple and then the word extension. And what comes up is a lot of maple disease fact sheets, and they're all from educational websites, which means they're probably from land-grant universities like USU Extension, and so it's going to be research-based information, and it's going to be up-to-date and relevant. So that's a good trick. Always add in that extension to your search. Also, Google has this nice option where you can select images at the very top after you do your search. And then what you're looking at is a whole page of images that are leaf spots on maple, right? And so you can kind of hold your leaf there that you're having the problem with and look through all these images and sort of compare, and I can figure out what's going on that way sometimes as well. Okay, if you still can't figure it out, we've got the Plant Pest Clinic on campus. It's $7 to submit a sample. If it is a disease sample, make sure it's fresh, so keep it in a bag. Or if it's a Friday and if you mail it on a Friday, then it might be sitting over, in the mail over the weekend. Keep it in the fridge, keep it cold, and mail it on Monday, just to keep that sample fresh. Okay, so just in review, if you do have a plant problem, so know the plant that's affected, consider those abiotic or physiological issues, find the reported pests of that plant, and that's going to be a lot fewer options than that 800 plus problems in that book that I showed at first, and then know where to get help, and hopefully you do now. So, hey, thank you. We'll stay on time and